All right, welcome back. Lesson 4 of review. Now we're going to compare fractions. All right, so we're comparing fractions, and first thing we're going to do is look at the denominators because these ones have like denominators. So if you count this up, this guy has 7, right? And this one also has a denominator. I don't like this one. I'm going to switch it. I like these thicker ones. All right, so 7. Right? Now, how many pieces are shaded? So I've got 2 out of 7 there, and I have 5 out of 7 there. Now, when the pieces are exactly the same size, and then they're divided up, we can compare these. So, obviously, if we're looking at this, I know that 5/7 is bigger than 2/7. I would get more of the piece, right? So, how I'd write that is 5/7 is less than 2/7 is less than 5/7, right? Because the part that's open is pointing towards the bigger number on the right. So this means less than. Because, yeah. Anyways, moving along. So now I'm going to add one more number in here. And I have 4/7. So I want to write this in a string of numbers from smallest to biggest. So comparing these fractions, if I'm using the fraction tapes, makes it very, very easy for me to see that 2/7 is smaller than 4/7, which is smaller than 5/7. All right, now I'm going to compare numerators. Now, all of these numbers have the same numerator. Okay, what the denominator tells us is with that same size piece, how many pieces it's cut into, right? So I want you to just think about what is the smallest and what is the biggest. What piece would you want if I was sharing my chocolate with you? All right, let's look at this. So if we look at this fraction tapes, right? Obviously, we would want the 1/2 piece, right? Because the 1/2 piece is bigger. And the smallest piece would be 1/4. Now, what if... Okay, I was going to share my chocolate bar with you, and I said, hey, now this is the 1/2 piece. So I didn't tell you that 1/4, or sorry, 1/3 even, would be a regular sized chocolate bar, while the 1/2 is a Halloween candy. Okay, so we don't compare fractions when they're not the same size to begin with. Okay, ordering fractions. So again, we're looking at the numerators here, right? So 3 is pretty darn close to 5, and that's how many pieces that has been cut into. And we're going to get 3 of those pieces, right? If I have 7 and 3, obviously I'm going to choose 3/5 because it is bigger than 3/7, right? If I'm going to compare, if I'm looking at 6 and I'm comparing it to 3, what do we know about 3 and 6? So 6 is double 3, right? So if I really wanted to compare these numbers, I could just double this fraction. So I can say it is now 6/14, and this is 6/10. Okay, so that's just like taking the same object and cutting it into here. So I have, this one is out of 5 pieces, right? And now, you know what? I want to be able to compare these, so I'm just going to see what that actually is, right? Maybe I should use a different color there, right? I cut it again. And so instead of being 3/5, it's now become 6 out of 10, 6/10. And now I can compare them. And if I was going to write them in order from biggest number to smallest number, I'm now going to look at 6/10 and 6/14 and think like, obviously 6/10 is the biggest number because I get 6 out of 10 pieces. 6/14 is also looking pretty good there. And then 6 15ths, right? Because the pieces are getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And 6/17ths, right? Okay, so now I'm just going to look at these numbers here, comparing. They both have 5s. Just pause the video for a second, and I want you to think about which number is the bigger number and which number is the smaller number. Okay, so if I'm looking, this one here has the smaller denominator, which means it has the bigger pieces. It's cut into more or less pieces, right? 109 is cut up into more pieces. So if I want a bigger piece, I'm definitely going to choose 5 over 102. Okay? So 5 over 102 is the bigger number. So 5 over 109 is less than 5 over 102. All right, so I want you to do this by yourself. So pause the video. Pay very close attention to these numbers. They all have the same numerators. Okay, so welcome back. I hope you noticed that this guy, all right, if we had number lines here, right? All of these numbers here are going to be between 0 and 1. But if you notice, 7 is actually bigger than 5. Okay, so it's going to be bigger than 1 on the number line. It's going to fit in between 1 and 2. Okay, so obviously 7 over 5 is greater than all of the rest of them. Now, the next number would be 7 over 13, because it's got bigger pieces, 7 over 15, and then 7 over 20. Okay, now what happens if I'm going to compare these? Well, I have a like denominator there, and I have like numerators there. So what do I want to compare first? Well, it's really easy for me to see that 4/5 is bigger than 3/5. I would definitely want 4/5 of that chocolate bar. And yes, I do really like chocolate. So 4/5 right now I know is the biggest number. So I'm just going to write this in the middle because I don't know yet if 3/7 where that's going to fit. Okay, but if I look at 3/7 and I compare to 3/5, 3/7 is smaller than 3/5, so I know that it'll be over here, right? Or if you wrote it the other way, you could say 4/5 is the biggest and put 3/7 over here, as long as you know you have to change these signs. And then 3/5 goes in the middle. Okay, comparing mixed and improper fractions. So when they're not in the same form, you need to change it to look the same. So what I'm going to do is, this is the odd man out, so I'm going to change it. All right, I want you to do this. So pause the video, show me how you change it to an improper fraction. All right, so now I have 3 times 8, which is 24, plus 1 is going to be 25. So I'm just going to change that guy there. All right, now I'm going to compare these directly. If I look at these two here, because they're both over the same denominator of 8, I know that 25 over 8 is bigger. If these are cut into the same amount of pieces, the same size and the same amount of pieces, then I get more pieces with this one, right? All right, now I am going to compare 25/7. Okay, so is it bigger or smaller? Well, it's definitely bigger than 25/8 because it's cut into bigger pieces. So that one is bigger, right? So I already know that 19/8 is smaller than 25/8. Now, can I write it this way? 25/7. Absolutely, I can write it this way. As long as you change the signs, you're all good. Okay, so now we're comparing fractions using one whole as a benchmark. So I have these two numbers here that I'm going to compare. I have 3/4 and 4/5. Do they have the same numerator? Nope. Do they have the same denominator? Nope. So what the heck do I do? Well, you draw some fraction strips. So I have some fraction strips, and this is obviously still cut into 4 pieces, and this is still cut into 5 pieces. But I am going to look at the unshaded part. And I'm going to make that into a fraction on this side here. And I'm going to look at the unshaded part here. And I'm going to write a fraction here. Now I have like numerators, right? So I can actually say I know that 3/4 is bigger than 4/5. And that would be my evidence. So when a numerator is only 1 away from the denominator, and this numerator is only 1 away from the denominator, or a number is the same distance away from the denominator as the other, we can flip the fraction, okay? So I can change this to be like the unshaded spot, right? And this would be 1/75. So if I'm thinking about these numbers at the bottom, which one would be bigger? Okay, and 1/75 would definitely be the bigger number. All right, so I hope you are catching this. If I went a little too fast, feel free to watch it over. But if you are struggling, you need to come to the help session.